Hey everybody, what's up? Ray here again, and this is project update number 2 of my Merath series. You can see we are here in the market square of Linshire, and if I pivot the camera around like this, you can see that that's a tavern. Or, well, the beginning of it. So, I've started work on the tavern, and we'll talk about that in a second, but very quickly, I've also done the terrain, as I've said in the last project update video. I've done the terrain over there, and as you can see over there, I've also started work on the harbor. It's mostly planning work, but still, I've started on that, so we'll take a look at that as well. First, we're gonna talk about the tavern though. As you can see, well, it's not finished, but as you can see, the facade is mostly finished. So this is the front facade, obviously, you know, facing the market square. This is mostly finished, minus the details, of course. The details are missing everywhere, but in terms of structure, the facade is pretty much pretty much completely finished, except for this corner here. This corner is still missing, but apart from that, the facade of the lower part is finished. There will be an upper part that will go right on top of the tavern right here. It will be similar to these kinds of towers that I'm doing in some of the buildings. These are kind of like an erased part or an upper part of the building on top of the lower part here. And the tavern will have a similar upper part as well, it will just be quite a bit larger than the simple towers that I have on the other buildings. Now, the tavern is special, first of all in the fact that it is a tavern and not just a random building, but also because it is the first building that I've built that I've built with the interior in mind. Because with all the other buildings, I didn't build them with the interior in mind. Quite a few of them will get an interior, especially the buildings at the market square here and stuff. They will get interiors, but the main focus was the exterior, so, you know, the city looks good when you look at it from the outside. That was the main focus. And the interior of these buildings will basically just have to fit in somehow. It's gonna work out, not too big of a deal, but the main focus on these buildings was the exterior. But for the tavern, I wanted the interior to also be a focus. I wanted the interior to also look really good, so from the very start, I focused on the interior as much as on the exterior. One interesting thing about the interior, if you take a look at it from the top here, is that you can see that it's kind of grid-like, right? It's basically just a grid. Especially if you take a look at it from the side here, if you peek inside, you can see it's like a three-dimensional grid. It's just like a cuboidal grid in a sense, which is kind of interesting, like an interesting combination with the facade, which is still very much varied like it is on all of the other buildings. You know, having this like very repetitive and grid-like interior with the very non-repetitive exterior was a bit of a challenge to get that working, but it worked out, and that grid-like interior actually made it easier for me to create a good-looking interior. So that's a good thing. That's the reason why I did it in the first place. So let's take a closer look at it. First of all, the tavern has 3 entrances. The first entrance is over here at the market square. That's the main entrance, obviously. It has this like colonnade or patio or whatever you want to call it. I'm not sure what the correct term is. If you know the correct term for this, tell me in the comments. That's engagement on the video. But anyway, this is the main entrance here. A secondary entrance is over here on this main street. So if you're coming from the harbor over there, you might actually just go into the tavern this way. And if we go along the other main street, there's a third entrance down here. So, let's actually enter the tavern through the main entrance, shall we? If we move up this patio, colonnade thing, whatever, again, post in the comments if you know the real term, you can see we actually have some seating areas over here already, like on the outside, so people can actually sit on the outside, take a look at the market square. The market square is still pretty empty, by the way, didn't really mention that in the first episode. But the market square is gonna get market stalls and all that kind of stuff, all sorts of detailing that's still missing. The market square will get that eventually, but not yet. So anyway, we have these seating areas here, and if we move inside, you can see, well, the interior is obviously very much unfinished. All of these areas will get seating places, you know, tables and seats and all that, but that's not done. But structurally speaking, the interior very much is, well, it's not done. There's still a big hole in the corner over there, but overall the interior is pretty much done in terms of like planning and the overall look. You can see we have this chandelier here. I'll probably redesign that. And if we go from the entrance straight across, we are ending up at the counter. You can see I already experimented a bit with candles and stuff. Not quite sure how I'll do the lighting. I want it to feel very cozy, of course, so probably not gonna have too many torches here, because torches are obviously very bright and I want it to be a bit darker, so it's a bit cozier. But we'll see, I'll figure something out. As I said, this area will have seating places all over the place. Down the staircase is the third entrance. Oops. So you can see this is very open, this is the basement. The basement is obviously not done at all, so I still gotta do that, and this has to be closed off, so that this will be like, maybe I will have a door here as an access to the basement, but this will not be as open to the basement at all. This will be completely closed off. So you go in here and basically the only option you have, as a guest at least, will be to go up the stair into the main area of the tavern. On the other side, here we have this raised area, more seating spaces, etc. And over here we have the second entrance. So this leads us to this second entrance, again with another raised patio, whatever. And then here, I'm not quite sure what I'll do with this corner. I might put a wall here and then put something here, some rooms, I don't know. Like the office rooms or something. Well, quote unquote office, I suppose, but I don't think I will just extend the main area and make more seating areas here. I don't think that would fit very well. But we'll see about that. This, by the way, is the entrance to the area behind the counter. This has to be closed off, of course. And, oh. Right next to that you can see the staircase with the door here. If we go through this door, we get to the second floor. Well, the first floor, second floor, whatever. The upper floor. We'll get to the upper floor. And this is the area where we'll have the rooms that adventurers will be able to rent and stuff. This is technically not all that historically accurate, because historically speaking, taverns, especially in big towns, and Linshire is like the biggest city in the world, especially in big towns, taverns didn't really have any rooms that people could rent. That's what inns were for historically. So usually only in like small villages and stuff you would have like a combined tavern and inn. But in larger towns and larger cities, of course, you usually had taverns specifically for drinking beer and stuff, and then inns for sleeping. But I wanted to keep this kind of fantasy vibe of rentable rooms that the adventurers could rent. So, going in here, this will be the first room. Again, very much unfinished, but that's to come. This is a bit of a public area, well, restricted to only those who actually rent the room, of course, but still like a public place. Have some seating spaces here as well. This is just a balcony, and these are 3 smaller rooms. So 1, 2, 3, they all look the same. This walkway just ends over here. It basically just wraps around the central piece with the chandelier here. I really like this design. I don't know, this is why I built it, obviously, but I just like it. With the proper chandelier design, like a more detailed one, I think this will eventually look really, really nice. So going the other way, there's not much going on here. Again, this will be a bit of a public place. I'll probably have some more seating space here in front of this window. This place will contain more rooms, eventually. Not quite sure how I'll design this. This will all depend on what I'll do here in terms of the roof and all that kind of stuff. I'm not sure, but I will try to fit a few more rooms into this side of the building as well. Then with the top floors, I don't know what I will do in the top floors at all. At some point we will have, of course, the private apartments of the tavern owners. These will be up here, but maybe also some like administrative stuff or something. We'll see. Haven't planned that out too much, if I'm quite honest. So that is the state of the tavern so far. So let's actually take a look at some terrain, shall we? If I just very quickly do this, so we are flying a bit faster, we can fly over to all of this new terrain which hasn't existed before. You can see right over here where this pillar is. This is where the gate will be. That's the word. So the city gate. I mean, it will be 1 block over, like right central over this diamond here. We'll have the western city gate. So all of this is outside of the city. some of the first areas outside of the city. I mean, I've done some areas outside the city in the east. This is the first area in the west that's outside the city. The city wall will obviously be going over like this and meet up with the river over there, and go like this and meet up with the ocean, with the sea over there where that pillar is. So the wall will come over here, go across here, like in front of this lake. So this lake will just be outside the town. Not quite sure what exactly I will do with it. Obviously there are going to be buildings around, but I'm not sure what exactly I want to do. If you have ideas, you can of course post them in the comments. But I think this will be a pretty cozy lake area, I suppose. Again, this will be the gate, the wall will continue on here, and this is where we'll have more river. So this is the Lynn River, which gives the city its name, Linshire. So this is the Lynn River, and I've extended it all the way to here. We have some rapids over here that mark a stepping point in like different heights of the river. This is just the easiest way to do like height differences in rivers in Minecraft, because like gentle height differences that go over kilometers is a bit hard to do in Minecraft. But yeah, this is a neat way to do it. Over there you can see we have the main street, that's the bridge over the river. And this main street will go straight across and meet up with the river here, where we'll have another city gate, the northern gate, which will then lead into another bridge that again goes over the Lynn River. You can see this area is very much unfinished, obviously, but here you can see that by filling in the water for the river, I created all of these lakes, and this gave me the idea, which I probably want to keep, that this will just be some sort of swampy-ish area. Not sure if this would be used agriculturally. I'm gonna see if there are crops that could be grown in this kind of area that have historically been grown in like Europe, because that's what Linshire is of course inspired by. So things like rice would be able to grow in this place probably, but that's not really something that would have been grown here. I could also bake up a fantasy crop maybe, but I really like the idea of having the main street come across here, and then here you would have a bit of a dam thing that the street would go across, or this road would go across, and on one side you have just normal wheat fields, on the other side you have this kind of wet, swampy area. I like the idea, so I'm probably gonna keep this. Obviously this has to be finished off, but finished up, not finished off, but the important difference. But yeah, this has to be finished up obviously, but I really like the idea of having this swampy area here, so I'd probably keep it. So that's all of the terrain that I've done with this. Almost all of the city area has been finished. This little corner here still has to be done. This is still city area, because again the wall will go across the river here, and somewhere over here it will detach from the river, go across and reconnect with the river over there. So this corner here is also city area, which I haven't finished off. And on the other side, I've kind of skipped over that in a sense, but all the way over here, you can see we have this swamp area here. This will of course be drained swamp, because the city would have drained it to make space for buildings, and the swamp will continue here. You know, the drained swamp will effectively continue all the way to the wall, and on the other side, on the outside of the city, we will have like just a swamp, not drained swamp basically. So this corner here is also unfinished, but apart from these two corners, all of the terrain for the city is now finished, which is pretty neat. Last thing we gotta talk about is the harbor that I've started planning. So the harbor is, that part over there is just one little bit of the harbor. The harbor actually extends all the way across like the entire coastline, all the way to the other side of the city, where, you know, the wall connects with the ocean, and that place over there is also where the wall connects with the ocean. You can actually see some rough plans for the city towers, like city wall towers. So the harbor as a whole will stretch all the way across, but this is actually the central part of the harbor, administratively at least. This is where the harbor started. This is called Lynport. This is where, well, everything started, and the harbor effectively just is extended further and further across the coast until, well, it's stretched all the way across the sea. Well, it grew with the city, obviously, right? The city grew as the harbor did, or the other way around, I suppose. But anyway, This is just one part of the harbor, that's the point. So I've done quite a bit of planning on the harbor with different levels of detail. You can see the pier here and all of that is very roughly detailed. While on the other extreme we have this building here, which is almost finished already. Like details and randomization is missing, but it's mostly finished. And over here, this is a bit of a medium level, I suppose, with this intersection here, with all of these roads. It was kind of difficult to actually make sure that this intersection didn't just end up as like a massive piece of, built up area, like a massive concrete slab or something. So I decided to go with this little wall here to create a bit of a height difference. And I think that's actually pretty cool. That makes, just makes this place a bit more interesting, even though it's technically just a simple intersection, makes this whole thing look a lot more interesting than, than just a concrete slab for an intersection. The challenge here came from this like very tight angle that these roads are interconnecting, so it would have been like a very long stretch of these roads just bunching up together, creating like this super wide piece of road. So getting that to look more interesting was actually kinda tricky. For the rest of the harbor, a lot of it was really a lot of trial and error when I was planning this. Originally I planned to have two of these piers here, one over this side and one over here, but it just didn't work out in terms of space, so I ended up with just this one more central pier. We'll have a bunch of nice ships around and stuff, so it'll look pretty good. Obviously the harbor as a whole will have more piers dotted all around, but this place, like the central place, only has this one big pier. You can see it connects with the city wall, that's the word. It connects with the city wall over here. And all of these red rectangles are marking more harbor buildings that I want to build. Obviously, they're gonna continue along the harbor as well, but I just planned them up until there. This big red rectangle here will be the counting house, like the central administrative building of the harbor. And you can see it is connected with all of these main streets, this being the most important one actually, because it connects with the city center. So this is a really important street. I still gotta figure out the design for the street because, usually for the main streets I have these diamond designs, but doing these diamond designs on an angle is really kinda difficult, so I'm probably not gonna do that. I still would have to figure out the diamond design for this piece of main street here, but for any of the main streets that are not the four main streets, like in the four cardinal directions from the main square, I will do some different design, but they will need some design that that distinguishes them from just normal side roads, you know. Other than that, I don't think there's too much to say about the harbor right now. Actually, one tiny thing here is that this is not a pier. This is actually a place where a defensive tower will be positioned. The harbor will have a few defensive towers just to defend against anyone who might intend to attack the city from the sea, of course. But apart from that, there's not much interesting stuff to say about the harbor, because there's not much done yet, I guess. There will be a lot more to talk about once I actually get to building the harbor. But this planning phase, I think, already gives you a good insight of how the harbor will ultimately look. You know, imagining that the walls and piers and all of that will actually be properly built up. It'll look pretty cool, I think. So that is the end for the second project update video. Thank you very much for watching, of course. If you have any suggestions, any ideas of what I could do or anything like that, post them down below. And other than that, don't forget to like and subscribe. And see you next time. Goodbye.